All right, let's begin. Welcome back to the Magic Forge and our video series from Breadboard to Market. This is episode 3. We'll be covering even more documentation and planning. For those that may be new to this or just jumping in, my name is Mike. I work with a company called Sanctuary Software Studio in Fairlawn, Ohio. I'm an electrical engineer there and specialize in embedded hardware, uh, primary electronics, covering the full gambit of commercial, industrial, automation, medical, and hopefully aerospace and maybe even military applications down the road. Who knows? It'd be cool either way. Definitely uh, glad to be part of their team. I am in no means a software engineer. My programming skills are very basic, very lax, and when we get to those portions, it's going to be an interesting ride for the programming aspect. But this video series, for those that are new, is intended to cover as much as we can from the concept phase to creating what would hopefully be a market ready product. So we are gearing the whole concept of this is for uh, an entrepreneur, a hobbyist, somebody who's got an idea for an electronic piece of hardware. You're just starting out breadboarding and prototyping, and you want to try to take it further, maybe even turn it to a marketable product. This video series is here to help uh, teach you things, maybe expose pitfalls, gotchas, things that maybe you were not considering, couldn't consider, not taught or educated about. As a lot of it's from real world experience in my many different roles from prior companies and my current role now. Uh, so the Magic Forge is my own personal side project that I do in my free time uh, because I'm fortunate that my hobby intersects with my career choice. So I get to do electronics and work with design and assembly and building pretty much all the time. This is what I love to do. And fortunately, I work for a company, so part of the time I get to build and design at somebody else's budget rather than spending my own money, which makes it a lot more fun and engaging. But here with the Magic Forge, I'm spending my own money. Uh, and with that said, I want to mention too that if you are looking to follow along, I am not telling you to buy anything, not to spend any money if you don't have it to spend. I know times are tough, um, and I do not want anybody to think you have to buy or support any of the services or products that I am using. I'm trying to do this video series wrapped around as many free or low cost products and services as possible to help give you the best start into it. Uh, so, with that said, the last video we started working on the budget. Uh, Again, I'm going to try to have everything from this video series uploaded to GitHub, including all the markdown files, all the templates that you can pull and modify and learn from and maybe even use for yourself. I'll get all the links set up when I get all that configured. I'm new to all this, to the educating space through video and streams and things like that. These videos will also be on YouTube on our channel. I'll get all those links, all those set up as I go. Again, I'm new to this. Bear with me. Constructive criticism is welcome, but trolling and hateful comments are not welcome, not appreciated, and will be ignored and or banned from my Twitch stream and whatever we can do moving forward. Uh, so with the project budget, again, I want to kind of change a few things. Let's remove we want to change it because if you're going to go into contract design and manufacturing per se, uh, you not only are quoting money to buy materials, but you're also quoting time. However you want to do that is up to you, but I suggest keeping your hours separate from your materials budget. So we're going to change some of this around. So we're going to and change some of the wording. So project allowance, we're going to go to materials budget, and we're going to change from allowance to remaining budget. Allowance sounds like like it's something for a child. So then we're going to also over here a couple columns away. We're going to data. Again, I'm not used to LibreOffice. I'm typically using Microsoft Office, but LibreOffice is free. So it is taking me some time to learn where all the menus are. Why don't I just merge format, merge and center, drag that down, boop. So here we're gonna say hours budget, hours used to date and remaining. The reason I want to do this distinction is there are times when what you're doing, you're not actually spending money on parts or materials. You're spending money on the time that you're using. So when you quote this stuff out, you want to make things very clear. You want to say, hey, okay, these are the amount of hours we think it's going to take to accomplish this project, and this is the amount of money we think it's going to take to uh, actually build the first few iterations of prototypes. You want to try to break things down, make it a little easier how you quote. That's up to you. But you want to keep track of all this separately. So let's say you budget 100 hours. All right, so we're going to kind of clean this up. We're going to format cells. We're going to do border. No, outside and inside. Okay. And let's format cells again. And we're going to basically do that. There we go. So now we're going to we're going to say we're going to insert here. Insert. You know what? So we're going to want to be able to keep track of our hours. Okay, we can fix this later. That's fine. Hours. So when we are doing our project, if we're not spending money, we just put like the hours we're using. So we're going to equal sum of here to here. All right, and then remaining hours, we're going to equal this minus this. All right. And then we're going to format the cells just because I like doing it. Background. No, that's not format the cells. It's going to be, we're going to do conditional formatting. That's fine. Conditional formatting. Conditional. All right. If we're greater than 0, Yeah, I don't know why. So we're going to do good. Ah, okay, there we go. Good. Oh, conditional format. Ah, it's right there. We're going to add cell value is less than 0. Bad. There we go. Error. Huh. So if you use 101 hours. Boop. Okay, so we need to format that and no. Don't do that. All right, format cells. That's just going to be a number. Format, that's just a plain basic number. There we go. So if we use 101 hours, boom, -1. So that's perfect. That'll just serve as a clear indication that something is wrong, and that's perfectly fine. We'll leave this alone for now. Again, this will just be a template. It won't matter. Uh, you'll be able to modify it to suit you. So even you could leave this blank, put your hours here, and put the description here. Since this is a personal project, I'm not going to worry about allocating hours. I'm just going to worry about allocating materials. That's a far out number, but again, this is a personal project. I don't anticipate using that much money for this project, but you want to prepare yourself. It can get expensive. But this is also just to be part of the process to demonstrate what we're doing. So I have this created. Everything's good to go. I will minimize that. Now since we're kind of getting along with the project management portion of it, uh, let us go to our Odo installation. Odo. I don't know how to properly pronounce that. If somebody has an indication or a clue how to pronounce that, I'd be more than happy. But I'm just going to call it Odo. I already have an install on a server I use for myself, but this is a fresh install that we are using for this video series. And that we'll go from there. That way, there's no data in there. We can do everything from scratch for those who are just beginning down this road. So we're going to go to this little guy right here and go down to project. Video episode 1, I showed the software we'll be using, and I ran through the modules that you want to make sure you have installed in Odo. So the project one is one of those apps, but to refresh, you go here to that grid, go to apps, go through and make sure project is activated. Odo will take a few moments to install the module, activate it, and then it'll reload. And when it comes back, it'll take you here, basically your home landing page. So then you want to hit the grid and go down to project. So we have no projects created. All right. So now for this, we need to go back to our structure here. Let's see here we are going to go to project organization. Okay. So we're going to have a project repository structure. And I think we kind of created that already. Yes. So that is the project name. It's got the folder structure underneath of it. So with that in mind, we're going to just rename it. We're going to copy that so we can go into Odo. We're going to create a new project. All right. Get rid of these underscores. Use stepper controller. All right. Now, this would be if you're able to track your time and materials to customers. I haven't used that module in Odo yet, so I can't really teach anything about that. And since this is for like a personal project, you're the designer, you're the engineer, you're going to be building it, selling it, whatever. We won't worry about that. So we're going to create a project. So we're in the project, and now you have your project management stages. So we're going to backlog. Priority, just in case. And then complete. So these are project stages for the project. So with typical project management, you have a backlog. This is things that need to be done. So with proper project management, so there's so many things to cover. So if we're going to have to kind of step back a little bit to proper project management, and this is where things get a little bit hairy and more documentation intensive. The intent of this video series is not to bore you with documentation, but I feel it is pertinent because improper documentation or lack of documentation, lack of planning, lack of process control is going to get you in more trouble than a faulty product, than a bad design, than a design that doesn't sell. This is where you protect yourself from legal liability. This is where you protect yourself in the case of audits, in the case of complaints, in the case of RMAs. This is where documentation is where all that lives. This is the core of your company. Documentation, processes, SOPs is just as important, if not more important, to what you're trying to do than the product you're trying to push. And this includes hardware, software, a mixture of the two, services, anything. If you're not properly documented, you don't have proper process control, this will destroy you faster than anything else. That's why I try to stress it. And I know it's going to get annoying. I know it's going to get boring, but you can skip ahead to the interesting parts. You can jump to other videos. You can jump off the stream if you wish. It's perfectly fine by me. Won't hurt my feelings. I know project documentation and management is not the most interesting thing to most people, but I feel it is highly important. If you have a product, an idea, a service, an app that you believe in, that you really believe that's going to do something, that you can make something of, that you can sell and other people buy it and love it, if you really believe in it, then doing the proper documentation, the proper management from the top to the bottom, from the get-go is important. And a lot of the documents that we're going to start and work on, like SOPs, work instructions, will apply to everything that your company wants to do. from everything moving forward. So once you get a lot of the hard stuff done up front, it gets a little easier. And then you get into habits, it gets easier. Once you get a fundamental library built up, it gets easier. But for now, it's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of work. So typical project management, which is a whole other side to this, it's great and it's cute to have Kanban cards. It's great and it's cute to have uh, fancy things like Gantt charts and all that. But all those are pieces and parts. They have inputs. They have other things that you need to do them. Like this Kanban. It's great to throw together a Kanban to use services like other services like Trello or the project manager in Odo or other project management applications out there like Asana. Great tools, but the tools are only as good as you using them and your application of them. So one of the typical steps you would do for project management, and yeah, for a person just starting out, an individual, maybe a team of 2 or 3, it's easier to stay on board to keep your vision together. But there's other things that you'd want to put together, something like a project charter. The project charter basically contains a summary of what you're doing, the end goal, and things like that. Then you'd put together something like a responsibilities, accountability, consultant, um, interested parties, a RACI chart. Basically, it would be a chart of all your stakeholders and your team members, who has responsibility for what, who's accountable for what, who you consult with, and who your interested parties are. Maybe later we'll create that down the road um, as an example, but for a team of just 1 or 2, you kind of know who's who, not really necessary. And then you would go through and set up your project goals. You would also set up your product requirements document. What is this thing going to do? And I think we already have a product requirement document, a PRD. No, we have not created a PRD, a project requirements document. Or did we? No, we did not. That would come off of the block diagram and what you want what you want the project to do. So we don't have a project requirements document that I don't see that I have created. Project documents. Oh yeah, I do have a PRD. It's right here. Project requirements document. So in one of the previous videos, we created this. We worked on this together, made some changes. Again, I am using Copilot because it's a tool. I see it as a tool. Project management and ISO are huge things, way too involved for anybody for any one person to try to remember and to do everything themselves. I'm not ashamed to use AI to help me write all the files and all the documentation, because it'll keep the formatting, it'll keep everything aligned, especially to the ISO hooks, the ISO clauses. So we have the product requirements document. And then if you're on a larger team, let's say you have a hardware designer and a firmware developer, app developer, however you want to call it, you'll want to create something called a work breakdown structure. What this is when you meet with your team and you analyze the project, you figure out what needs to happen in order for the project to be completed. there's a lot of meetings involved with proper project management and doing this stuff, especially on a larger scale. A team of one or two, you can probably do everything on the fly. But if you want to grow, you want to be aware of everything. That as you grow, your complexities grow, your potential for problems grow, and you want to mitigate that as much as possible. That's why I'm really strong on doing the documentation and creating your core structures. So you'll do your work breakdown structure. Basically, is everything that needs to be done. Uh, you would filter that and organize it, and then through that, you would create your the tasks that would need to be done. So under backlog, this is where you would put the tasks that would need to be done. Now, a lot of times you would do the project management uh, meetings, the project kickoff, as it's called, initiation, however you want to call it, prior to doing some of the steps that we did. So I'm trying not to rush through things. I'm not trying not to skip over stuff, but unfortunately, it happens. There's a lot to cover, and uh, organizing this type of training is not my forte. I'm better with in person training, hands on, than I am with video. So, so the backlog would be to work breakdown structure. Uh, we would say create um, initial project diagram. So so in the backlog, you would put in everything that you need to do to accomplish this project. Um, and that's from your work breakdown structure. You would design your tasks and assign them based off of that. Since it's just a team of one, it doesn't really matter. But I'm trying to keep as organized as possible. Uh, so one of the tasks we need to do for this is capture schematics. Capture. I have a bad habit of capitalizing all the letters. Okay, capture PCB layout. Um, generate the bill of materials, material or materials, depending. Um, let's see. Load. Build initial. We'll just say pilot board. You can get real fancy with some of these project management apps to where um, tasks can be stage gated behind the completion of a prior task. So, like, in order to build the pilot board, we have to order materials. In order to order materials, we have to generate the bombs. So, none of these can be started until these are done, and you can't generate the bombs until you have your schematics and your PCB layouts done. So there's a lot. There's a lot you can do. We're just doing very basic project management. Um, so most of this will follow a logical flow. I know as we enter these, they're putting the most recent at the top rather than putting them in that order, but that's fine. we don't. I'm not worried about that right now. We're going to test. We're going to test the initial pilot board. Uh, all right. So we're going to review the test results of the pilot board. So when you test, you're going to, we'll get to that down the road. We're basically a test plan, things that we need to absolutely test with this based off of the PRD that we generated here. We're going to make sure that, so your functional requirements, this is also with the traceability matrix. We'll figure all that out as we go. I said, yes, I'm going to update the traceability matrix, but it's going to be easier to update that as we go and develop all this. It's fine. We will kind of develop these as we go, these functional requirements, performance requirements, all this as we go. But for now, we're just going to stick with some basics here. Kind of get our tasks list done. So this is just for the stepper controller. You know what? And we will put this as a task. We will I can't spell. Generate requirement documentation. And we'll create. We'll go to create. Create test requirements documentation. So we'll kind of do that as we go to kind of bounce between things a little bit, kind of as we think of them. It's like I said, it's going to be a lot of documentation, a lot of paperwork, but it's necessary. It's important. I would like to get this project done as soon as possible, but I am also not going to want to rush it. I want to make sure that we cover as many bases as possible. So we're going to be doing the test requirements documentation based off of the PRD. We'll create all these FRs, all these PRs, all these SR documentation, verification and validation plan. It's going to all be worked on. We're going to work on that together, piece by piece. I'm going to try not to rush through this to the best of my knowledge, the best of my skills. So we're going to go in through that in process. So what's great about this software, you can just, like a lot of them, you can just grab, drag, and drop into the column you are. This just helps have a visual of what needs to be done, what you're doing, what needs to be done, next, the next stage. So these are stages. We can get even more complicated with actual stage gates, but that's usually typically done for when you're doing contract design and manufacturing. You stage everything behind milestones. That's another thing with proper project management is you would create your milestones. Sometimes your task lists would be based off of those milestones, and your work-based structure, your work breakdown structure would be based off of your milestones. But larger projects typically need a lot more in-depth coverage of that. We might do some backfilling of some of the documentation for project management just so I can show you what needs to be done, how best to do it. And we're going to be using a mix of VS Code. So a lot of the highly important stuff that is associated with the project itself, or the QMS side of things, the ISO side of things, are going to be markdown files or CSV files that we're going to be using um, VS Code for. Because for one thing, it's you could get it for free. It's easy to use. Markdown is really nice, and with the right plugins, you can have a nice PDF version that looks like this with the plugin that I installed. So since one of the next steps that and this is a living thing. So if we think of anything else to throw in the backlog, we will. If we need to rearrange things as we have to, we will. So we have our test requirements documentation. This is going to take some time. So let's go over to VS Code. So we have the traceability matrix that we started. So this will be a CSV file. It's basically like a root like directory of everything that's involved, of every file of all the requirement documentation. Just that way you can go at a glance for auditing, for like an ISO audit. They can say, okay, this is like a table of everything that you have. So the first things first. So here's this FR001. Okay, functional requirement. So one of the functional requirements is, so we've defined that we want Wi-Fi and BLE support. Let's modify that. Let's see, that's a requirement. Okay. We'll have to develop testing for this stuff. So okay, so here we go. So here are the tests. Okay, test 001, which matches with the the functional. Kind of minimize that a little bit. So FR, that matrix is the test 001. Let's get rid of Wi-Fi for now, because we're just going to do BLE support. Or maybe we will incorporate Wi-Fi. You know, heck with it. You know what? Let's see what we can do. Let's just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what we can cook up. So what we're going to need to do then is we're going to need a, let's see here. Do we want to keep them in the project documents? It would be probably better to keep everything grouped up here together. That way it's all organized in the same folder. So we're going to say test. We're going to create a new file. dash test 001. Let's see here. Since we have the matrix, the traceability matrix, uh, we'll be able to say that the test 001 aligns with FR001. But we're going to give this a name. We're going to just call this test 001. Okay. So that's going to be test 001. That is going to be a for testing the Wi-Fi and the BLE portion. And then this is where we would write our let's see here. Okay. So okay. So like I said, I am using Copilot to help generate these files. So I've had it create a okay. So I've had it draft up for test 001, but it's kind of messed it up and seen it as test 002. So here we go. So we have this is going to link requirements. Let's go over to here, FR001, 005, and PR002. Okay, so that's what it links to out of our PRD, and then all right. So we have our first test requirement. Now, firmware lead. Unfortunately, it's going to be me. Date created. Find there. Linked requirements. We'll have to create a test plan for this next. All right. Traceability matrix entry. Test 001. Okay. So now this is going to say, all right, well, here we go. Now we need to have a place for basically the test results. So what we're going to do is under project documents, we're going to create a new folder, call it test. Do we really need to go test and then test logs? No, what we're going to do is we're going to name that test dash logs. Let's not overcomplicate this. Okay. One, because it's for test 001. Again, we're going to have to correct any mistakes from Copilot. So then this will be the log file, the result of the test plan. Verification plan. We'll go through all that. So one of the things we're going to need to figure out. So PowerBoard confirm ESP32 boots into BLE provisioning mode. Now this is obviously going to be used for Wi-Fi credentials, things like that. This plan may need to be modified, but it's fine. We'll go through and we'll figure it out. We'll do it. We'll work on it. 5 times different SSIDs. That's fine. I think I have an extra Wi-Fi router that I can update and keep giving it a new SSID, new passcodes, things like that, and we'll keep testing it. So I have to write a BLE provisioning app. All right, hooray! Maybe we'll get to do that together too. And this is going to be a long project. It really is. And I know a lot of you guys watching are really eager for the hardware side of things. I get that. Maybe what we'll do is we'll switch up the format a little bit. Take a break from documentation, jump ahead, which I don't recommend. Uh, um, but maybe go into start doing the hardware, and then we can jump into kind of mixing and matching things. That way, we can try to kind of push things along. You get to see the hardware design. We get some hardware to start testing and playing around with, because all the documentation is nice and fun. Fun quotation. But we know hardware. Well, hardware, the documentation means nothing because we have nothing to test on. So I think that's what we'll do is we'll start jumping into the hardware aspect of things. At least some of the initial design elements. Start working with KiCad, start getting the schematics captured based off of the product's requirement document, the draw.io block diagram. Because normally, when in a larger company, you would have a team managing and handling all this documentation. You would have a quality manager that helps get and or a project manager that would help with all this documentation. That way, the hardware development team, the firmware development team, can get to their thing, can do their job, can get to the juicy parts. But since we're a team of one, we have to do it ourselves. We can't rely on other people. We have to do as much as we can, as close as we can. And again, we can jump back and forth. And I don't want to keep everybody waiting and with nothing to really work on. It'll be easier with hardware. So we do have our first test. So you may have to rework some of this, how this goes. So the wireless CSV document that's going to match up with this will basically be recording this pass fill, things like that. And then we'll have like this stuff again. It's going to be a lot to cover, as we'll also have time to kill in between actually ordering the materials, getting them in before we can actually even build anything. So we can also use that time to perform more documentation. So we might as well come over here to test logs, create our file, test -001 underscore wireless dot csv. Boom. So that'll create our first basically test log file that will hold all of our results. Basically, it's going to be a pass or fail log. We'll have to organize it, make it a little bit nicer, uh, because there's other things we're going to want to do. Because we're also going to want to serialize the built boards to keep track of them. That'll come down the road, maybe as we get it, as we get a little further along. We'll get that process. Um, I would also recommend, not important, to have some sort of maybe a label printer, uh, if possible, like a little handheld unit to print on the little labels to help label boards, like with a serial number. Um, Again, I'm not saying go buy this stuff today. Go buy it. If you can't afford it, don't worry about it. You can always mark on a board using a Sharpie. Uh, Write a generic serial number. We'll go from there. We'll just generate the methodology, and um, we'll go from there. So we're gonna want to definitely have, like, in the CSV file, we're gonna want to have our um, board and this is actually what's kind of cool, about using uh, Copilot within VS Code, is it'll want to kind of um, autofill stuff for you. But we're not going to use everything they use. We're going to do definitely test date. Um, Test technician. Yeah, we'll keep that the same thing right there. We'll keep that. So test ID will come off of this guy. We'll have to figure out how to do that. We have to figure out what we want to do. Let's see here. Maybe a test ID. Test ID can be just basically what we're testing. So we don't have to worry about that yet because we're not testing anything right now. This is just we're just setting up the CSV file. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Now, I think we're good to go. I'm going to end the video here because we're about an hour into it, and I don't want to drag each video on too long and the streams on too long. So we'll end here, and I will catch everybody in the next video, the next stream. I'm not 100% sure when that's going to be, but I'm maybe shooting for tomorrow, Sunday the 2nd, around 2 p.m. as well, because again, I'd like to get this project done. So I will catch everybody later. Thanks and have a great day.